Today I was playing a new game that came out called Zinland Zone Zero. It's another game from the developer HoYoverse, and it's pretty fun. It's changed a lot from their other installments, but overall I think it's still a fun and interesting game. So of course I continued to play it today, and I'm getting around to the third chapter of the game, and those certain things had kind of felt off. Nothing had really emphasized just how annoying I find the character models in this game as a certain interaction that I had in the beginning of the third chapter. You see, in this, you meet two cops, right? One of them is a fully clothed adult woman, right? It makes entire it feels fine, right? It's still a very attractive anime-esque girl, but it feels appropriate, right? The other one looks that maybe she's the age of 12 and somehow is wearing less clothes than the adult woman. Do you see what my problem is with the character designs? Every single character, despite even if their listed age says that they're in their mid 20s, has a problem where they all look like kids. I do not want to play as a bunch of children. I do not want to feel creepy when I play this game, and that is the qualm that I have with the character designs in this game. You see, I saw the release trailers of this game, and I thought it was gonna just be a fun game where you go and you beat up bad guys, right? But just like every single HoYoverse game before it, for whatever reason, wanted to make a bunch of the characters look like kids, right? And what this means is, as a player, I either have to build a team with a bunch of children to go beat up the bad guys, which would be fine if they were handled with some amount of class and care, right? Because the problem isn't that there's children that are playable in the game. It's fine, right? Or people that look like children, technically yada yada, but like obviously like this is supposed to be a kid, right? And unfortunately, for whatever reason, Hoyoverse has decided and elected that they need to make all of them look very like wear very few clothes, I guess is the best way to put it. And I don't understand why this keeps happening with their games. Because they'll have this incredibly interesting concept. They'll have this super interesting concept, right? Something like Genshin has all this fun exploration and has a really interesting it has a really interesting combat system and all these very fun things that you could sell a game around. But for whatever reason, they always like to have this gotcha moment right before you start playing of oh, but also all of the characters look like they're 12. Gotcha, you know? And that's my problem. I really like Zinland Zone Zero. I think that the gameplay and all of the storyline and all of these things, even if they need some polishing and need some work, and I do still have problems with them, I was generally willing to write it off as 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, right? Just kind of a very fun, fun game to play that you play every now and then, and every day, log in, do your dailies, just like that normal kind of game that Hoyoverse has developed for a very long time at this point. And I was assuming that I was going to be content with that, and because you're never really seeing these characters unless they're on screen in battles or in their animated cutscenes or these kind of things. I assumed that a lot of the character designs, I wanted to assume that maybe they would try to kind of tone back this I I guess very pedophilic feeling that a lot of their character designs have because you're not looking at them, you're not ogling at them as much. Um and that it really annoys me that it seems as if it's been toned up for this game. Because if you look at something like Genshin, they have a very wide cast of characters, but they all feel like they could pass for at the very least legal if they're dressed in a way that's a little more revealing, right? The issue is there's a lot of characters that feel like it's just trying to get pedophiles to play their game, and that's what really annoys me because I don't want to feel creepy when I play a game. I'm playing this game because I like the combat system. I like the feeling of parrying and dodging and all these things. I don't really want to do that as some random 14-year-old girl who's half naked, and it feels very weird that that's like a problem that this game has. And it's and like you can at some points, right? I think up until that point I was able to kind of push it aside. There were interactions with one of the characters who is confirmed to be 17 years old, and it was weird, like it felt creepy and intrusive, but it was in the first act, and generally it was always juxtaposed with more comedic characters, and I could always kind of skip past it because it was still fresh enough in the game where the combat and all of these things I still wanted to explore more, so I was kind of willing to be like, okay, I mean, one off, right? Like this is weird, but fine, right? But now that I'm what, another 10 hours into the game, 15 hours, the same problem comes up again and again and again. There's always at least one of these characters in each one of the arcs, it seems, that is just a kid walking around not looking like how a kid should look. Because again, if they had just drawn and dressed them that so that it didn't feel like this was a game for creeps, it would make it so much easier to play. And that's my concern, right? Because everything about this game is incredible, and like all the animations and all of like the little storybook moments make it feel like there's a lot of artistic passion poured into this, right? Everything has this level of polish and flair that feels like somebody really did care and really wanted to try their best to make the best game that they could. And you can feel it like in every single animation and every single time, every single time that you do anything in the game, it feels as if somebody really wanted to pour their heart and soul into this, right? And it just sucks that, you know, after all of that, it has to be ruined by the fact that they're all kids. Because my current team is comprised of the character Ellen, who is, the cool shark maid girl that like does all the ice stuff, and I was like, okay, I mean, whatever. I wasn't planning on really pulling for it and trying to put in the work together, but then whenever I played with it, I was like, oh, this is interesting, this is fun, right? It was like, okay, whatever, right? Like I thought it was gonna be like, okay, I'll have like one of these characters on my team, but then all of the S stars and all of the characters that I kept pulling for, all of the characters that I kind of needed in my team, kept so happening to be the characters that I kind of don't want to play as for some reason. So I'm having to kind of I'm having to almost do a challenge run to try to make sure that I'm not accidentally being a pedophile while playing this game, which shouldn't be the challenge run last I checked, right? It's ridiculous. It's like I feel like it's not. I feel like I'm crazy because everything else about this game is so much better than all. It hasn't fallen into any of the problems that things like Genshin Impact had, where it's because I think the way that they do the fighting and the way that they do the building and the way that they make all of the aspects of the actual RPG, like all of the parts of the hitting the bad guys till they die, is so much more incredibly polished and so much more fun to play as that I really want to play more of it, right? And the fact that like you have like the main characters actually exist in the world and the setting isn't just more fantasy garbage. Like it's interesting, it's fun, it's cool, right? And so it makes me want to play more and learn more and like do all of these things, and then it's just like, oh, by the way, here's another kid that why they're on screen, right? Because I think whenever these kind of things come up, right? Um, like I think a very similar problem is something you know, like something in the sense of like My Heroes fan base having this very weird obsession, right? Of being very odd and being very peculiar, and a lot of people can claim that that ruins the show, right? That knowing that a lot of these characters are cosplayed as, and that there's a lot of people that are very creepy and very weird that dress up as these characters can take a lot of people out of the show. But I think that's a little silly because you should be able to recognize that the show is different from its fan base, and I think it's very easy to distinguish between the two because the actual show very rarely does things that would make it feel as if you're being catered to in that manner. The issue is because the games Endless Zone Zero keeps catering to me in this feeling that like it almost wants me to be a pedophile. I have this feeling of like, okay, dude, I'm here, like it's kind of, I have this feeling of like I'm going to Epstein's Island to be on the jet skis, you know? Like it's that's what it feels like because I'm just like, dude, I don't want this isn't for me, man. I don't want this, and I keep getting reminded that like if I tell somebody I play this game, that's what they're gonna think. They're gonna think I'm one of these people, and it's like, dude, I just want to fight the bad guys. I just want to fight the cool monsters and get all the cool characters and learn more and do all these fun things. I don't really want to look at kids, and so why is that too much to ask for out of a Hoyoverse game? Because everything from Genshin Impact to Star Rail, all these games, and I will say it's probably just more of a problem with the genre. The issue is there's so much effort put into making a fun game that I want to play every day because obviously that's how they make money. But that they can't just make all the characters adults, you know? It's like then that's like the whoa, dude, whoa, man. We'll spend $1 billion making this game as pretty and beautiful as possible, but you want us to not make kids as the main characters? That's ridiculous, dude. That's ridiculous. You know, like, it's just like how? Why is it so hard? What about it is so hard? And like I get again, it's just I'm really I think it was just that cutscene and seeing that a character that looks younger has less like has a more revealing outfit, the one that is meant to look older, really set me off to try to make this kind of a video because it's just like how, how do you how do you write up that like scene and you don't think this is a little ridiculous, like this has gotten to a point of like come on man, because that's the thing, it's just like at what point is this ever gonna like you're gonna look at that and be like you know, because obviously I built this entire channel around, you know, drawing and doing art and learning how to do it, and I can't imagine from like that artistic perspective drawing that and then looking back at it and being like, yeah, that's fine. You know, like I legitimately do not understand how they got to that conclusion that it was a okay. And obviously, it's like, you know, I don't know, yada yada, whatever the pedophiles like saying that like it's a different culture, so that means you should totally be okay with, you know, kids looking hot or whatever. But it's just getting so irritating because it's the fact of that these games, the Genshin Impact and Zenless Zone Zero, are both incredibly fun games to play. If it wasn't that you had to be reminded every now and then that like by the way, you're playing the pedophile game, man, and it's just like, yep, I'm playing the pedophile game, man. You know, like you just keeps coming up, right? So obviously this is more just kind of a rant. That's another game that I really like playing. I I I don't know, man. I really just wish that I could just have one of these games just be normal, right? I feel like the one kid from uh what's it called? The Magic School Bus, you know. Please let this be a normal Hoyoverse game with pedophiles. No way. Aw, but it's just so disappointing. It's so disappointing that like I can't just enjoy the game for the game. That like because it makes it's like okay, well like I'm not spending any money on this game, right? So am I justified in continuing to play it even though I know that my like that technically I am supporting this kind of a thing? It's a very weird feeling of like, you know, I'm not spending any money, so technically short of my attention, am I actually giving something up to this game, right? That would be valuable, right? I mean, of course, obviously, the like the information that they're mining off my computer, like I know that I'm giving them that, but like in terms of something more substantial, like more tangible, um, it just feels so like, can I justify it to myself to continue playing a game that I do enjoy, that I can't stand the thought of being one of those people, you know? Because that's just it's put me in a very awkward position, I guess is the best way to put it. But that's basically the end of my tangent. I'm really sick and tired of having to look at kids when I play a game I like. So you know, that's I don't know if that's a relatable experience. I don't know how many other people play these kind of games and are really don't like looking at kids. I would assume it's probably a smaller fraction of the population than I'm hoping. But yeah, so of course, thank you for watching. Obviously, this is a bit of a pivot from my other kinds of content. It's a bit more of a rant, but that's probably going to be what I'm pivoting to in these next few videos. Just kind of putting the art on it as a background, and then just kind of talking about whatever I see as worthy of talking about. So yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.